just to add a little more color to it, it was the IC Champions Trophy that India won the entire trophy and did not lose a single game throughout the trophy.
Yeah, of course,
while
yes.
that is
We have to mention all of that. Yes, of course we do.
Important. While it is important for everyone to know that, the reason it's important is not just to recognize how good India is, but also that factors into the simulation.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Drunk Agile. With me, as always, is.
Pratik
I
Singh.
just noticed you're wearing the same shirt that I am. It's Pratik and my name's Conti. Yeah, I know we didn't.
Yeah, the people can't tell us apart now.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard. Go change. You're gonna have to go change. Pratik, what are you drinking?
It's Stag Night. So it's Stag Junior, 65.1%. So
Yikes.
This might get spicy.
Yeah, so many jokes there, but I'll leave it alone. I'm going with the going back to the Blair Athol. I'm so close, that I figure I need to finish this thing off. So bourbon cask, 59.8%. 12 years old. Good stuff. So cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hope you have your favorite tipple nearby too. I'll just apologize up front. I feel like I apologize for a lot of our episodes before we ever get into them. I feel like that's all that's good. I feel like that's all I'm ever doing is apologizing, but we voted, and I don't know how Pratik won this vote, but we're going to be talking about cricket all night. So hopefully all of you out there in Drunk Agile land like cricket. If you don't, you'll probably learn maybe more than you really wanted to know about cricket before the end of this episode. But trust me, there is a point. We do have a point
to this episode or to cricket.
I can only speak to this episode. So for those of you listening on the podcast, this might be a little bit difficult, but for those of you on the YouTube channel, I'm going to share my screen and Pratik is just going to start talking. I'm just going to hand it over to him, and I'll jump in when he gets stuff wrong as usual. So Pratik, take it away. What's going on in this picture?
Yeah, this is a picture of a game between New Zealand and India. It's a cricket match. I would like to give our audience, at least those watching on YouTube, a chance here to pause the video and take a look at the top third of this picture and the bottom third of this picture and see if you can spot something that might be a bit strange. Go ahead and do that. See if you can spot it. So hopefully you all did that right now and were able to run through and see if you can find the cricket lovers, the cricket enthusiasts probably spotted this. If you look at that top third of the picture, right below the current score, where it says New Zealand made 251 and India is at 202. If I'm reading that correctly. Right below that, it's got a little more information. It tells you the amount of runs required to win this game. Along with that, it tells you these two statistics. It's CRR and RRR. CRR stands for current run rate and RRR stands for required run rate. In cricket, the basic rule, if you don't know anything else about it, is side A goes out there and makes what are called runs. Essentially, you could think of them as points. So side A goes and scores points, and then side B goes in and tries to outscore them, tries to score more points than them. That's the simplest way to explain cricket is that. There are obviously 5,000 other rules, but that's the simplest way to explain. As a side is making progress towards scoring those runs, we can figure out what rate is it at which they're scoring those runs. That is what that CRR means. What is the current rate at which? What is the average number of runs they're scoring every what are called overs, every period of play. What is the current run rate? That tells you the average progression towards the target that they have right now. The required run rate is the rate at which they are required to score in order to meet the target. So that's
On
those are the
average,
two
on average,
numbers.
on average.
On average, yeah. The rate at which they're required to score, the average rate at which they're required to score. So what is the average that they have to maintain in order to hit that score? Now, that is too far from me. So I am going to pull up that same image here so I can look at the numbers.
Well, I can tell you. So
The
at this,
current,
I can tell you,
yeah,
you take
go
a
for
break,
it.
take a drink.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
So at
Or
this point
two.
in the game, India had a current run rate of 4.93. They had a required run rate of 5.56. So a little over half a run. They were behind. On average, they were behind by half a run. So I mean, what this is really telling us is that at their current run rate, they would not, on average, they will not score enough runs in order to win, because their current run rate is 4.93. The required run rate is 5.56. Now, the reason that we spent so much time on that, if I can take this one step further and steal all your thunder, Pratik, now that you've set it up, the reason we're spending so much time on this is because looking at those two numbers alone right now, you'd think India's in a lot of trouble, right? Their average run rate is not really near where it needs to be. In fact, they're quite a bit behind what that required run rate is. So if you were just to take a snapshot like we did here and just look at those two numbers, you would say India's in a lot of trouble. However, scroll down to the bottom part of the page, as Pratik said, that kind of bottom third of the page, and you see here how it says win probability. And down here on the win probability, India is an overwhelming favorite. 95%. They have a 95% chance. This win probability, the simulation or whatever that they're running here, gives India a 95% chance of winning, even though on average they are behind. Think about that for a second. How could that possibly be? And then Pratik's going to give you the answer. I don't know if you want to pause again and think how could it be? How could India be behind behind the required run rate, but still be a 95% favorite? Doesn't seem possible.
Or looking at it another way, how can New Zealand be ahead by run rate? How can New Zealand's target be so far ahead of India's current run rate, and New Zealand only have a 5% chance of success?
Yeah.
Like,
How
why is that?
Yeah, how could that possibly be? I mean, looking at this, you'd want to be New Zealand. I mean, if you knew nothing else, you'd probably want to be New Zealand. This is a situation. If you're New Zealand, you'd probably want to be in this situation. So, and by the way, even if you don't believe that New Zealand is the favorite at this point, why are they such an overwhelming, can I say this, overwhelming underdog? Is that contradictory? Overwhelming underdog? Why? I mean, why is the simulation giving them such little chance to win if they're actually ahead at this point? So maybe pause the video, think about that. But Pratik now is going to jump in with the answer.
Yeah, this is your typical, at least in our parlance, a typical flaw of averages. We've done a few episodes on flaw of averages before, but this is the easiest example you can find to demonstrate flaw of averages. India is in a situation here. So the second part of cricket that we didn't talk about really is the number of wickets in hand. So you see these scores go 251 over 7, and then India's is 202 over 4. Am I getting that right? Yeah. What that means is India has 6 wickets available, which means they have a lot more ability to take risks. They are in a much more stable position. They have a lot of folks coming in that are still to be at bat, still to come up and make runs, which means that target is pretty achievable. further, that simulation, if you go and read a bit about it, one of the things it does is it says from this position in the past, from this particular position against the similar opponents, how often has India won? How often have they actually achieved success from this very position or this or a very similar position? And based on that, based on that past data, based on that history, based on the fact that they have 6 wickets in hand, the simulation determines that India has a 95% chance of winning, or probably more importantly, New Zealand has a 5% chance of losing, despite the fact that they are ahead on that run rate.
Translating all of this to English. Oh, and by the way, we probably should give the answer. By the way, India did win this match. Came down to the last over though, didn't it? If I remember correctly,
It
it was a lot closer than it probably should have been. But
Yeah,
India still did
it
win.
did. But
Right.
I mean, just to add a little more color to it. It was the ICC Champions Trophy that India won the entire trophy and did not lose a single game throughout the trophy.
Yeah, of course, yes. Yeah,
While that is important,
we
while
have
that
to
is
mention
important
all
for
of that. Yes, of course
while
we
it
do.
is important,
Jesus.
while it is important for everyone to know that, the reason it's important is not just to recognize how good India is, but also that factors into the simulation. The fact that the team has been playing that way and has been winning from these situations factors into simulation. And also India's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to promise never to talk about cricket again on this thing. The reason that this is important is because if you're doing things like burn up or burn down, if you're doing something like, measuring velocity, average velocity, over your past sprints, or whatever average technique you are using when tracking your metrics, so often you will find yourself in a situation where you think you are New Zealand. Hey, on our burn up, on our burn down, we're ahead. We're ahead of average. We're ahead of where we should be. That means we are doing great. But if you were to go run something a little bit more rigorous, say like a Monte Carlo simulation, you might find out that, okay, yeah, you might be ahead of average, but you still only have a 5% chance of winning. This is why the flaw of averages is so important. I know it probably sounds, I don't know, particularly what is it? What's a good word that it sounds like? It sounds like, I don't know, hyperbole. It sounds like we're just kind of
Exaggeration. It's just,
droning
yeah.
on and on and on about this flaw of averages thing, but it creeps into almost every aspect, especially when we're talking about metrics. It creeps into almost every aspect of decision making that you really need to understand, especially if you're being presented an average, what that average is telling you, and more importantly, what that average is not telling you. And you simply just cannot make this. I shouldn't say you can't, but you shouldn't make decisions with only presented with average data. Help me out here, Pratik.
Yeah, I mean, you could see, as I said, this is the prime example, and that's really the point we wanted to drive home here, which is just because you have an average rate of completion, you cannot just go, because you will always have an average rate of completion, by the way. You cannot just take that average of completion and project it out and go, this is when we will be done. You're going, what's worse than um, not finishing on time is you're going to tell yourself that you're going to finish on time. You're going to tell your stakeholders that you're going to finish on time and then not finish on time. It's not just that you're going to be behind schedule, it's that you'll set up expectations that you're going to be on schedule and then be behind schedule.
Yeah, to put some maybe some numbers around what Pratik's talking about. Most people assume, and I know we've said this many times before, but most people assume when you talk about averages, we're talking about a 50% chance of being right. And in this case, where New Zealand is ahead of average, you probably think you have a greater than 50% chance of actually being successful here. If you were to try and put some odds on this, looking at the average alone, you'd probably think, you know what? New Zealand has a greater than 50% chance of winning, or hey, we're ahead of our average velocity, so we have a greater than 50% chance of being successful here, if you are even thinking that way. when in reality, your chance of being successful is actually much, much closer to zero. And in fact, in reality, it pretty much is zero. Whenever I see 95 to 5, that in my mind, that pretty much translates to New Zealand has, pretty much a 0% chance of winning. It would take something extraordinary, I guess more than extraordinary.
Yeah,
What's a level
miraculous.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, miraculous
Yeah,
for
miraculous. I mean, come on, beating India.
yeah, okay. um, but you wouldn't, again, you would never know that if all you were doing is looking at the averages. You'd think not only do we not need to be extraordinary, we might even be able to slack off a little bit and still probably hit our target. When if you were to dig a little bit deeper, you'd realize, wow, we are actually in a lot of trouble here.
I mean, if you look back through the past episodes on this channel, you'll find out that we have a lot more information available, a richer set of information available to us than these average completion rates. And we can do the same thing that forecaster is doing and figure out ways to incorporate all that information to give us a much better um, answer, a much better decision point, rather than simply looking at that average and, as Dan was saying, just being wrong.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll probably take the last word since I think you got the first word. Decision making is in our not so humble opinion, decision making is all about risk management. But risk management is really all about understanding what your risk is and what your risk isn't. Unfortunately, looking at an average, a single point, a single data point that is an average does not give you that information about risk that you need in order to make proper decisions. I mean, um, I guarantee you, New Zealand understood what was going on in the simulation.
Yeah.
They knew at this point they were in trouble. They were not your average, forgive me, average scrum master or whatever, who's probably just looking at burn ups or burn downs and saying, "Hey, look, our team's doing great." I'm sure that they knew very well the situation that they were in, and I didn't see the match. I'm assuming that they probably played accordingly. Or
Yeah,
at
they
least
they they
they
tried
tried.
things. They
At least they tried
Yeah,
to
they
play
tried
accordingly.
things.
So,
Yeah.
so do that. Quantify risk in ways other than just average, and you will be that much further ahead in terms of better decision making. So, that's it. I guess I said I'd take the last word. I don't know. Do you have anything to add? No?
Yep, that's good. That's
Okay,
good.
good.
Yep.
Uh,
India, yay.
I thought you'd be wearing your India blue tonight. So with that, I
Should
just want to
be.
say thank you so much. Hopefully you made it all the way through until the end of this episode. Hopefully maybe you learned a little bit about cricket or not. But let us know. Let us know what you think. I mean, what other situations do you find yourself in? Much like this, where the flaw of averages is reared its ugly head, and it's like maybe you didn't recognize it till after the fact, or maybe you did recognize it and realize, hey, this is a flaw of averages thing. I need to pay attention to that. Let us know. Leave us a comment. Either way, we want to say thank you so much for watching. We were glad you were here, and we will see you in the next episode. Good night, everyone. If you like this content, all of you know how YouTube works. Please like and subscribe to this channel. We'd love to get your feedback and love to put more quality content out for you. Pratik, what else can they do?
Use the links in the description to reach out to us. You can find us on LinkedIn. See if there's a way we can work together. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to see you. Thanks everybody for watching, and we hope to see you again very, very soon.